Hello, this is Allie with the Perception Trainers, author of The Perception Diet, and today we are here with the latest episode of Real Talk for Lightworkers, where we're going to talk about why premature forgiveness is actually spiritual bypassing. Okay, so I made a video years ago about forgiveness, and it was titled Stop Trying to Forgive, and I'll put the link to it down below. And in today's video, I really want to expand upon what I talked about in that video and, of course, tie it into how this all fits into self-love and what forgiveness really is and all these things. Now, back in that other video, I explained that forgiveness is something that you arrive at naturally when you've actually gone through the process of processing what you have been through in the context of a situation where you are angry or upset about something. So in today's video, I really want to go deeper into why that is, why forgiveness is a natural place you end up at, so that you can understand that there's nothing you have to do to specifically get yourself to a place of forgiveness, in the sense of trying to get to forgiveness as an end goal, because we have completely misunderstood what forgiveness actually is and why we get there and how we get there. So let's back up. Let's talk about why we get angry. Let's talk about why we get upset with people so that we can better understand why, like I say, I'm going to tell you a little bit later, why trying to forgive is spiritual bypassing, so that you can fully understand this and so you can give up all of your forgiveness practices, all of the things that you're doing to try to forgive people, all the worksheets, all the meditations, all the sessions, everything that you're doing to try to get to a place of forgiveness. You're going to give up on all of that because it's silly, and you're going to see why it's silly. And like I say, okay, so if we look at the emotional vibrational scale, if you've ever looked at this, it's in the book called Power versus Force. And you can look it up online, the vibrational scale of emotions. You're going to see that at the very, very, very bottom, there's victim mentality. So being a victim. And then from victim, just above victim, you're going to find anger, rage, frustration. All of these anger emotions. And then there's sadness, despair, all of this. Okay. Again, if we understand that this vibrational scale is not telling you it's bad to be in these negative emotions and good to be in these positive enlightened emotions, okay? That's not what this scale is about. We're jumping out of the fishbowl of good and bad, right and wrong, and we're jumping into the fishbowl of truth and reality. All of these emotions are a part of the human experience. We learn something from all of them. So that's the first thing. This is not about getting rid of anger or getting rid of being upset with somebody or getting rid of all of these things because they're low vibration. Okay, that's superstitious thinking, right? And a lot of people think, if I'm in this low vibration, I'm going to manifest terrible things. Okay, no. That is completely superstitious thinking, and we're going to get into why as we go along in this video, but just to understand this, okay? These emotions, the scale of these emotions, show you the emotional process you are going to go through as a part of your learning. Now, let's look at why we end up in a victim state at all, okay? Why do we end up in victim state? We end up in a victim state simply because we have been born into a world that teaches us to live in a way that's out of alignment with life. Okay? Let's say that again. The reason we get into a victim state at all, this is why every single human being is at some point in their life, from birth to 7 especially, in a victim state. Because as children, we don't have control over what we do and what we think and what we see and what we feel. We're being dictated. Yes? We're being taught the values of the system. We're being taught the values of our parents. We're being taught the values of our culture, our tribe, all of these things. These are being tied into how we get love, which is part of the value system. And we are essentially victims to whatever teaching we're being taught because we're children. We don't have the capacity to live in any other way that's outside of how our parents are living, outside of how our caretakers are living. Yes? And because the way the world is set up right now, if you watch my video on how you can get to your dream life and still feel like shit, on the last one in that where we were talking about the values, we can see that the entire culture that we live in is backwards. It's all set up backwards. It's set up for, let's give this example. It's not necessarily backwards. It's set up so that we're going for what is technically a correct end result that we're wanting. We're looking for health. We're looking for happiness. We're looking for peace. We're looking for security. We're looking for love. So these things are correct. Those things are part of what you get when you're on a life-generating path. Let's understand this, okay? Health, security, financial abundance, or just abundance in general, love, all of these feelings come from a life-generating path. However, the way the matrix or the culture that we live in is teaching us to go about getting these things is what's out of alignment, okay? Is what is the death path, the degradation path, the path that is not leading to more life. It is leading to death. So for instance, let's give an example, right? We all want to look beautiful. And like I said in that video, part of what we consider to be beautiful is essentially what it looks like when somebody is healthy. Glowing skin, lovely glowing hair, big bright eyes, no wrinkles, right? Like nice integrity to the skin, lean physique. Why do we value these things? Because in truth, these are representations of health and cellular integrity, things working properly, flow, not a lot of waste in the system. This is what health looks like. Now, but the way that the system teaches us to go about getting these things, yes, dieting, chemical injections, crazy over-exercising, stressing ourselves to the max, very, very, like I say, complicating nutrition, all these things, the way we're going about trying to get there is incorrect. And it's actually killing us. So it's this backwards loopy thing of the thing we're doing to try and get the result of what it would look like if we were life generating. Yes, the path we're trying to take to get there is the degradation path. The injecting ourselves with chemicals which kill the body, not eating in a way that's actually healthy, that's killing the body, all of these things. So we're born into this system. So like I say, everything that we value is technically a life-generating value, more or less. However, the way we're going about getting the thing and why we think we want it and all of this is totally backwards. So we get into this situation when we're born where we're being taught, this is how you live. This is what you do. This is how you eat. This is what you need to value. This is what you need to do to be a productive member of society. This is who you need to be. And what happens is, of course, we take that on and we start to live by that. But then life starts to speak to us in the way that it speaks to us, which is in pain and pleasure, and we start to have pain. We start to have physical pain and sickness, mental, emotional pain, physical, spiritual pain, all of these pains, emotional pain. Yes, we start to develop pain, and that pain is there to show us we're out of alignment with life. It doesn't matter what the culture says, right? Everyone's saying this is how it should be, but we are saying, no, that's not how it is, that I'm in pain, something's wrong. So what we usually end up doing, and we're going to talk about this in the next video about judgment, is that we end up going into this state where we're very confused, right? Because what should be working, what should be helping us, what should be making us happy, isn't. It's making us pain. It's giving us pain. And then we learn other things about coping. We learn numbing. We learn all these things, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So what we need to realize is that for most of us, especially when we're dealing with parents, caregivers, elders, people who are supposed to be authority figures over us, even in friendships and all these things, when we get into states where we're in a place where we're not forgiving someone and we're angry with them or we're upset with them, the first thing that the spiritual community tells you to do is to forgive, forget, get over that, get out of those lower vibrations of anger and sadness and fear and all these things, get out of that so that you can be in these higher vibrations of love and joy and forgiveness. Okay, so again, just like everything else in the matrix, that's not totally wrong, but it's not right either, all right? So yes, we do want to get to these higher states, but what we need to understand is this. The reason that we're angry with somebody, the reason we're upset with somebody, is because on some level, we handed our power over to them. So either as children, like to our parents, to caregivers, to authority figures, we handed our power over to them by the very nature of being a child. That's not something that you did purposefully, right? Or you handed your power over to your friends, your neighbors, the people around you in some way. Usually this is going to be handing your power over to these people as, I'm going to behave in this specific way in order to get your love and approval. And this is exactly what we did with our parents. It's what we do with our friends. The reason we get in these situations where we end up being angry with somebody is because we have falsely handed them our power, either because we were children and we didn't know any better, or we're adults and we don't know any better, right? We have handed over our power of saying, I'm not going to feel lovable, I'm not going to feel worthy, I'm not going to live in a way that I know serves the highest good unless you approve of me, unless you give me permission to do so, unless you accept me. Yes? And so we need to look at this in kind of two different categories, right? So with the caretakers and authority figures, we were victim to them because we were children and we didn't know any better. And so when we're very angry with our parents, when we're angry with authority figures, when we're angry with people who had authority over us at some point in our lives, the first thing to recognize about that kind of anger and sadness and hurt and unforgiveness is that we need to stay in that unforgiveness for a little while. Okay? The reason that we're angry, the reason that we're hurt, the reason that we can't forgive our parents, we do not want to jump into seeing it as perfect, into seeing them as perfect, into seeing the whole thing as playing out how it should have. No, we actually want to stay in our anger in a productive way, okay? Because when we get into why am I mad at my mother? Why am I mad at my father? Why am I mad at these authority figures? What we're going to start to realize is that the values that they taught us, the way that they taught us to live, the way that they taught us to operate, the way they taught us to see the world as what is good and what is bad, what is right and what is wrong. If we really do these deep investigations, which I encourage you to do in the Emotional Mastery series, so this is kind of tying this together. If we really do these deep investigations of why we're angry with them, we're going to see that it's because they taught us to live in a way that's out of alignment with life. And the reason we're still angry with them is not because they're doing it. It's not because of something they've done. It is because this is our emotional guidance system saying, I reject that thing that they taught me. I reject that thing. I know that I have it tied in with me doing what they want me to do, me being how they want me to be, me trying to forgive them and see them as perfect, and all this is so that I can get love and approval from them, so that I can be how they taught me to be and get their love and approval. But there's this other part of us, right, that's saying, no, I don't want to be like how they taught me to be. I don't care if they love or approve of me, because to be what they want me to be the thing that they would love and approve of, is to kill myself. So we're in this juxtaposition when we're in this anger and this unforgiveness, where we're starting to become the rebellious teenager that maybe we never let ourselves be when we were children, of saying, I reject how my parents live. I reject how my parents see things. I reject being what my mom or dad or caretaker or authority figure would consider to be good in me. I'm rejecting that because it's wrong. It's not life-generating. Yes, it may make them approve of me superficially, but it's not going to make me live the way that I want to live. Pain is always going to be there when you're trying to adopt a value system that's out of alignment with life. So when we're upset and angry with authority figures, we don't want to rush to forgive them, because we really need to see what exactly is it that I am rejecting about the way that they are trying to raise me, right? And this is, again, when we understand we were victims to them as children. We were absolutely victim to the way that they lived, and they supplied all our needs, and they supplied all of our physical needs, all of our mental, emotional. We were victim to them, okay? So as we grow and mature as adults, and we start to become adults who can care for ourselves, we're going to get angry at them, because that's the next step out of victim mentality. And that anger is what's going to fuel you if you use it properly, if you don't spiritual bypass, if you don't puke it all over everyone, if you use your anger as a tool, as a marker of saying, okay, this anger, this sadness, this just hole in my heart I feel when I think about my parents or my caregivers or these authority figures, it's showing me where I'm still holding on to their value system that's not in alignment with life, and I'm sacrificing myself to try to be what they want me to be. So what we're going to realize is that this anger and this sadness that you feel is not about what they did. It's about what you're still doing that's in alignment with their faulty value system that's killing you. That's why you're angry. That's why you're hurt, and that's why you can't forgive. Because you're adopting the thing that they told you to do that's killing you. And the pain signal is always going to be there, showing you where you're living out of alignment with truth. So if you're going to do this properly, you're not going to try and see how they're perfect. You're not going to try and forgive them. You're going to go into, okay, why is what they taught me wrong? And this is going to feel horrible if you have good girl, bad girl, good boy, bad boy syndrome, right? Where you were the good girl. You tried so hard to be the good boy. You tried so hard to be what your caregivers and your authority figures wanted you to be. You tried so hard to adopt their way, even though it hurt and you felt like it hurt and you knew that it hurt. You were still trying to do it because you just wanted them to love you. So this is where this emotional mastery work comes in, is that you need to start to realize you're rejecting their thing because it's not life generating. And you should be rejecting their thing in a sense of you need to evolve past where they are, which is most likely going to cause them to reject you. So part of the reason you're struggling so hard to forgive them is because you're trying to make it so that you can still be what they want you to be and be happy yourself. It's not going to be possible. You're going to have to get to a place where you are okay with abandoning the value system that they gave you and the repercussions of that. You not being a good person in their eyes. You not being able to go and visit them and hang out with them and have this awesome, or have any kind of relationship with them sometimes, in some circumstances. You're not going to be the good girl. You're not going to be the good boy. You're going to reject what they're going to do and understand that as you go along, you're going to see you're not really rejecting what they're doing, you're evolving what they're doing. But to them, it's going to feel and look like rejection. And for a while, to you, it's going to feel like you're abandoning them because you are. You're moving forward. You're going farther. And that anger and that sadness is what's motivating you to do it. So if you try to forgive too fast, what you're really doing is shutting off the part of you that wants to move forward and evolve and become better, stronger, more in alignment with life than your parents or caregivers or authority figures were. And meaning you're not going to do that. You're not going to be able to get there. You're not going to move to the place where the pain no longer exists. And therefore you don't need to forgive anymore. So this is the big key. When you've truly taken what your parents gave you and you've broken it all apart and you got all mad about it and you got all sad about it, and then you saw, okay, it's the way that they were wanting me to be that was out of alignment with life, out of alignment with my highest potential, out of alignment with my growth, out of alignment with who I am. And you start to see, okay, so now what does that mean then? Who do I have to become? What do I have to do that's different? What about them am I rejecting or evolving so as to become different? I'm going to stop living how my parents lived, stop living how my authority figures lived, and live in a new, different way. So again, taking your authority back, loving yourself enough that you can be different. And even if it's super different and they reject you, that you can do that and love yourself enough to do that. To become this person who's on a life-generating path that's different than the path that your caregivers were on. You will then naturally see that what they gave you was exactly what you needed to not do what they were doing anymore, right? They handed you a system that was incomplete, and you've evolved it now. You're going to see you didn't really reject what they were giving you. You evolved it, okay? But for a while, you need to sit in the rejection. You need to sit in the anger. You need to think in all the ways that they are wrong and bad and what they are doing that's hurting themselves and that's hurting you. Because if you don't, you're not going to see what it is that you need to see, that is what you need to change about how you're living and what your value systems are and what you are doing now in your life that's degrading you, that's in alignment with their values. So again, when you understand that, when you really truly see this, when you really get here and you're like, oh, okay, this is why I was so mad at them, because they taught me how to live in a way that was killing myself. And of course, like I say, you're going to come to this place where you understand they didn't teach you that on purpose. They didn't teach you that, like, kill my kid. Like, it was nothing like that. That's just how they were raised, and they never questioned their pain. Yeah? Because you're going to see that your caretakers and your authority figures are in pain. They're in pain too. They never really realized why they were in pain, and they didn't deal with their pain in the sense of understanding why they're in pain, which is just, I'm in pain because I'm out of alignment with life, and so I'm going to change myself to be in alignment with life. Most people take their pain and they hold on to it even tighter, right? They assume life is just wrong and out to get them, and this is how it should work, and because it's not working that way, life is wrong, and we build up all these crazy mental, emotional cul-de-sacs and all this stuff, and this is how most people are living. And so when we get into this unforgiveness thing, we need to understand that, again, it's because we were victimized on some level. And all that victimization is being taught how to live in a way that's out of alignment with life. So then your truth meter is going off, right? Because pain is always going to talk. Reality is always going to talk. It's saying, I'm in pain, this isn't right. But I was taught that this is where love comes from, right? My caretakers and my authority figures is where love comes from. Or as you grow up, you're gonna do this to your friends. You're gonna do this to your coworkers. You're gonna do this to your bosses. You're still gonna look to them for approval, and so you're gonna get into codependencies and helping people, right, stay in their shit by you staying in your shit, and you gossip and you do mean things to each other, and you're competitive, and you get into these situations where it's very hurtful and harmful because, again, we were all taught by our parents how not to communicate properly, how to manipulate to get our needs met, how to be out for ourselves instead of seeing that we're all connected. It's these fundamental misunderstandings that we were taught by our caregivers, because that's how they lived, because this is how humanity lives, right? That then feeds into relationships where we get into issues where we have big problems with people and we can't forgive them because they're hurting us over and over again, and we don't know, right? So again, we rush to forgive, which means we're just going to put ourselves in that situation again. The person didn't change. Your parents didn't change. No one changed. And you're forgiving them all the time, and then they're abusing you again, victimizing you, and then you get angry, and then you rush to try and forgive, but because you didn't learn, right? You didn't learn. What is it that is happening here that I need to change so that I can be life generating? So either, like I say, changing the value systems from my parents, or when we're in friends relationships and business relationships and all these things, it's, where am I sacrificing myself for the love and approval of this person? Where am I giving them authority? Where am I not having a boundary of where I begin and where I end and you start, right? The always being on call for somebody until you get resentful and you hate them, and then you try and forgive, but you cannot. Okay, that wasn't their fault. That's you. You didn't have a boundary. Yeah? And you probably learned that from your parents, that in order to be a good person, you're just giving all the time, and then you end up being in these resentful situations all the time. Okay, value system, right? I'm angry at my mom because she taught me. I'm angry at my dad. I'm angry at my authority figures because they taught me to abandon myself to get love from other people. And now I'm doing it in my relationship, so I'm mad at them and I'm mad at them. Well, of course you are, because that anger is there to show you what actually needs to change is you need to have healthy boundaries. You need to be able to say no and disappoint people and be okay with that, because you know that you're saying no for a life-generating reason. You know that to overgive is to do nobody any favors, right? Then you really start to see it. So you need to do your work to go deep into, why am I angry with this person? My friends, my family. Why am I angry with my parents? Why am I angry with my authority figures? Why am I hurt? What's really going on here? It's not just a lack of forgiveness. It's not just a lack of seeing it as perfect. No, You will see that on the other side when you've made the change you need to make. So this is the big key here. If you're angry with somebody and you can't forgive them, you need to change. There's something in you that you're doing. You are cutting off life from yourself based on what they taught you to do, based on what you think you need to do for their approval. And what needs to change is you. You need to see where you're abandoning yourself, where you're abandoning life. And you need to change how you're living. And then you will naturally be in a place where you have forgiven them because you are no longer a victim to them. You don't have to be angry with them anymore because you're not a victim to them anymore. You're not living how they taught you to live or how they expect you to live. You're living in a way that's life-generating, and then you're naturally in a state of empowerment, and you don't need anger. You see what I'm saying here? And then you can see all the compassion. Oh, I see why my parents did that. I see I see why my friends do that. Oh, okay, I have all this compassion and love in my heart for them because I see how they do it, because that's exactly what I did. I see why they're abandoning themselves. I see where they're abandoning themselves. However, I'm no longer in pain because I'm not doing it too. So this is what we need to realize. If we have unforgiveness, it's because we're doing to ourselves probably what we're angry with them for doing to us. As adults, when we're angry, it's because we're victimizing ourselves now. We're allowing our parents to continue to teach us what to value when our pain signals are telling us not to value them, and we're abandoning ourselves for their values. When we're in situations with our friends and they're hurting us over and over again, and we are not able to put up a boundary, we're not able to put up a wall, we're not able to say no, we're not able to say, okay, you can't treat me like this, I'm exiting the relationship, or whatever it is that needs to be done so that you can be in authority and loving yourself and truly life-generating, you're abandoning yourself for them. You're victimizing yourself to them. Or you're spending all of your time running around like a chicken with your head cut off thinking about how to get everyone to approve of you, and therefore you're abandoning yourself and you wind up feeling very angry and sad. Well, yeah, because you're abandoning yourself, right? You're doing to you what you're upset with them for doing to you, and you're going to see this. So when you're truly in a state where you're ready to forgive, you don't need to do any work to forgive. And if you're doing work to forgive, you haven't gotten it yet. So stop trying to forgive. Go back to being angry. Go back to being sad. Why are you angry? Why are you sad? Well, I'm mad and I'm sad because of what they did and how they taught me. How am I still doing that? How am I still living in alignment with those value systems that are killing me? That's why I'm still angry, because I haven't changed enough. I haven't become I haven't taken myself from the life degradation to the life generating path. Because when I'm on the life generating path, I'm going to feel empowered. I'm going to see them at their light. I'm going to understand why they do what they do, but I'm not going to sacrifice myself for them anymore. I'm not going to put my hand on the burner because their hand's on the burner. I'm not going to put my hand on the burner because they want me to put my hand on the burner. I'm going to stay in life generation. They may not like it, but I love myself enough that I do it anyways because I value myself. And I do love them. I love my parents. I honor and respect their path. I love my authority figures, all this. But this is the natural state of forgiveness. So if you're doing work to try to forgive, you're spiritually bypassing. You're not seeing where you are still adopting the values that you're living in alignment with that are hurting you, that come from the outside, that you have agreed to continue to do even though the pain is telling you not to do it anymore because you wanted that love from them. You need to become strong enough to stop doing these things, and then you will be in a natural state of forgiveness. Okay? So if you're still angry and you're finding yourself angry and sad over and over and over again, stop trying to forgive. Look at where you're abandoning yourself. Look at what the values are and how those values are hurting you. Do the work. Figure this out. And then you will change. You will do the hard, scary work. Because this is going to be hard and scary work of putting up boundaries, saying, I'm not going to do that anymore. Saying, hey, mom or dad or authority figure, you taught me how to be like this. I'm not going to be like that anymore. You're going to reject it. You're going to reject me. You're going to be upset with me. You're going to feel like I'm rejecting you. Tough. I got to do it for a while. Doesn't mean I hate you. Doesn't mean any of these things. I totally understand why you did what you did, but I can't do it anymore. I can't keep doing it because you're going to keep doing it. I can't stay loyal to you and go down with you and expect to feel good. Right? So it's hard. It's scary. It's abandoning all the old things. But you got to do it. Okay? So, forgiveness is the natural state you come to when you've empowered yourself to be on a life-generating path that's different from the life-degrading path that you were taught to be on. That's what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is not, I see them as perfect and everything was perfect and blah. No. Okay? Because if you see it as perfect, you're not seeing how it wasn't perfect. You're not seeing how you need to be different than that in order to be in alignment with life. And therefore, you're going to keep killing yourself. And you're going to keep being in pain. And you're going to keep turning that pain in on yourself, right? Instead of rejecting what they're doing, now you're just rejecting yourself over and over again because you can't forgive. It's ridiculous. No. If you're rejecting your caregivers, why? There's nothing wrong with you. You're rejecting it for a reason. And we're going to talk about this in the next video when we talk about judgment. Okay? But just start to think about this. I'm mad at them for a reason. Because part of what they taught me, or part of what they're expecting of me, if it's your friends group, is out of alignment with life. And I'm sacrificing myself for their love. That's what this is. So I need to learn to see, where is this non-life generating? Number one, what is it that I'm really rejecting? Number two, how do I be different so that I can be on a life generating path? Number three, how do I love myself enough to reject what everyone is telling me to do, to be different and to have them reject me, but to say I value life more than I value that. And then you start to be different. You start to be life generating. And then you can have all the compassion in the world. You will have all the compassion in the world. Then it's safe to have all the compassion in the world, because through that, in that compassion, when you've changed to be life generating and you have compassion for your caregivers or your friends, that compassion won't turn into you going back to doing what they are doing. That compassion won't turn you back into the person that you were when you were sacrificing yourself for them. Because this is why I say premature forgiveness is spiritual bypassing. Because if you go from anger and then you don't change, you don't see why you're angry, and you change and fix it and become life generating and then have compassion, but you rush to just try and see how they're perfect, what you're going to do is keep convincing yourself that their life destroying path is correct and it's just you that's wrong. That's why this is dangerous. That's why we don't want to rush to forgiveness. So if you haven't changed how you live, if you haven't identified the faulty value, why you're upset with them, and changed yourself to be living differently and loved yourself enough to support yourself in this new way of being, you're not ready to have compassion for them. Because that compassion is toxic compassion. That's disordered compassion, where that compassion just teaches you to keep doing what they're doing and see that you are wrong instead of seeing that the system is wrong. So sometimes we blame the person. Sometimes we blame the thing. We get mad at that. We go through that phase. And eventually you'll see, okay, you didn't actually hate your caregivers. You didn't actually hate your friends. It wasn't even that you were mad at. You were mad at the system that they represented. And if you tried to rush to have compassion before you saw that, before you saw the system that you were rejecting because it was life degrading, and got onto the life generating path so that you could be happy and living in pleasure, that compassion is toxic compassion that teaches you to just keep doing what they're doing. Yeah? So we don't want to rush to compassion. If you haven't changed, if you haven't identified the value that was out of alignment and how you can live in a different way, and you're living in that different way now, you're not ready for compassion. That compassion is going to numb you out. Okay? And it's going to keep you putting your hand on the burner and thinking, what's wrong with me that putting my hand on the burner hurts? Nothing. Nothing's wrong with you that putting your hand on the burner hurts. You need to say, no, putting my hand on the burner is what's wrong. Stop doing that. I'm doing it because they taught me to do it. And I'm mad at them for that. And that you use that anger to change. And then, like I say, on the other side, you will come down and see, okay, I'm not really mad at them. It wasn't their fault. They didn't teach me this on purpose. Okay, now I can see how they're perfect. And it's safe because I can see how they're perfect without going back to doing what they taught me to do or what they expect me to do. I can see how they're perfect and have compassion for them without it meaning that I then again sacrifice myself. Yes? You can hold both of these things. I'm going to be different than you, but I don't hate you. And that's a very mature place we get when you've already changed. You have to have changed to be in that place. That's a very mature adult place. We can't rush there, and we can't fake it. We can't get there by any other means than being mad and blaming them and shaming them and thinking they were totally fucked up. so that it empowers us to change, because we have to reject them in order to be different. That's a phase we go through. We go through the rebellion. You reject your friends, you reject your parents, you get all mad at them, you hate them, so that you can be different. And then you will come back to compassion. Then you will come back to seeing it as perfect. So like I say, that anger is actually protecting you. It's protecting you from going back and putting your hand on the burner and then just blaming yourself that you're in pain and you should be able to not be in pain. No, you're in pain for a reason. You hate them for a reason. You're upset for a reason. Because what they taught you to do or what they're expecting you to do is killing you. You need to get mad at them enough to reject what they're doing, to stop caring so much about what they think about you a lot of the time, so that you can be different. That's what that anger is doing. And then, when you're different and you're on the other side, you're safely in life generation, then you can have compassion. Okay, so if you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave those down below. Like, share, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Thank you for watching this long video, and I will see you in the next video. Yeah?